Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're talking about a pretty controversial topic, very much the case probably exacerbated because you're talking to someone from a MDM vendor. Obviously, our incentive is to make sure that you choose CluedIn as the solution for solving MDM and data quality challenges. But I think this is a great exercise, not only for us, but also to kind of dive into should you actually be building or buying an MDM system today? I think it's a very honest question and fair question to ask. And the reality is, with the onset of AI coding that's extremely good, it is a more pertinent time than ever to be able to start asking this question or continue to ask this question to yourself. So I think for me, the best that we can provide from CluedIn is almost an immense level of transparency and hopefully quite a lot of examples that are tangible for you in the audience to be able to understand of, I did not think about that. And I find, at least in my own, I can only speak for own personal anecdotes, I am very susceptible to that as well, of how hard can it actually be? And in some cases, the answer is not that hard. In other cases, it's what did I get myself into? So what I'm hoping this gives is a set of content coming from, 10-year anniversary of CluedIn that we recently went through. So this is 11 years of building an MDM system ourselves here at CluedIn. You know, how would we look at this particular answer if we were to put ourselves into the shoes of someone looking into build versus buy on MDM? So let's dive in and take a look. So let me ruin the surprise. The answer is potentially. Yeah, potentially you should actually build. I'm going to give some very practical and tangible examples of when you should build. And the reason is, and we'll dive into this a little bit detail later, is that you already have a lot of data technology. The majority of companies that we work with, they have a data foundation. They have an analytical compute engine. They have Databricks, Fabric, Snowflake, BigQuery. They have virtualization, ML tools, AI tools, BI tools. They have workflow tools. They have ETL tools. They have maybe data quality validation engines running in Databricks or DBT or Fabric or something. You've got a lot of pieces of the puzzle. So why on earth should you buy another technology? And there are very valid reasons to build today. What I'm going to help is give you the reasons of why, if you need these capabilities, build is going to be a painful experience for you. So let's zoom back and actually understand, why would you even look at an MDM system in the first place? What's usually the case where people stop and say, either we need an MDM system, rare, you have to have done this before, often you have to have worked at a very heavily regulated company in a very heavily regulated industry to even know you really need to look at MDM in the first place. So it's not this, hey, I've just started a brand new startup, we're building an AI company, or we've got this amazing hardware product that we want to get to market. Let's go get a CRM system and then let's go get an MDM system. That's just not how it happens. MDM is one of those things that you discover once you've gone deep. Once you've realized there's this gap with what we've currently got in our stack and it doesn't seem to be going away. And throwing more IT resources, engineering resources, doesn't seem like a scalable approach. What is on the market to actually go and solve? Surely someone has solved. That's often when you stumble across MDM. And so let's kind of walk through a couple of examples of where this would typically come up. One of the first is matching and merging. And this naturally starts to occur when you have multiple different systems that house similar type of data, and when you start to bring it together, you realize it's not a perfect world. We don't have this beautiful ID that just stitches the records together, and actually, when we're bringing together data, we're no longer thinking about data in a tabular format. It becomes a lot more of a complex data structure that we start working with. Some have called them golden records. That's the most notable and common way to describe this data structure. I've heard people call it mosaic records, which I think is another great way. It's not as common, but I would argue it describes it even better of what we're trying to actually achieve here. But essentially it is a records are coming together, conflicts naturally happen, and we need to resolve those. And that's usually where people would look into something like a matching and merging engine, entity reconciliation, deduplication. There's lots of different synonyms for it. And usually you've got some type of business problem that has kind of caused an issue, and it could be low data quality. It could be the fact that it was too hard to bring together this and consolidate this data, so you just went with the data from one system, and that's either caused some real business challenge or business problem. Often, when you're looking into MDM, what you're doing is you've identified certain business domains within your data that are more important than others. And the risk of getting something wrong with that data has real effects that would either cost money or you would lose an opportunity or lose money because it wasn't correct. There are real practical examples that I've seen over the last many years that are prime, easy examples to understand. We've got, for example, maybe a third-party vendor that provides our, maybe our document management system or our CMS system for our website or something like this. And maybe we have an invoice that is due. Now, the vendor management system that we have has one value, our Microsoft Entra has another, and someone in the vendor management team knows if you send it to anyone else but this email address, I can guarantee you the invoice is not going to get paid. That is, something that's only known in the vendor management team, and then through the magic of consolidating data for reports or automation, we realize there's a conflict and someone makes a decision. Let's just take the latest email address. Invoices are sent, no one gets it on the other end, 30 days goes by, not getting cash in the bank, you've got a cash flow issue. These are real practical things that happen of why people would look into an MDM system in the first place. More, I guess, lately has been I want to use AI against our internal data, and when I do, I pretty much give up immediately. I don't have the level of trust, I don't have that extra visibility into how did it actually get this answer. Now, of course, we do have links. Great, that is a great start. The challenge is that often the data that you have to answer a question is scattered across multiple different places, so you have to do this consolidation work. Regulation issues, auditing issues, hence why if you're in a regulated industry, often you will run into MDM sooner than you might run into a high-tech company or maybe a consumer goods company, although those are getting more and more regulated. And so there are general ideas like this of why do people even look into this in the first place? And like I said, it's easy to sit here and say, hey, you've got a report that is not showing the right values, then you're looking into MDM. This is actually often not the case. Actually, what is the case, and I think it speaks nicely into the topic we're talking about here, is typically that is we've got to fix that in IT and engineering. And it's almost like you have to suffer from the issue itself to then realize this is not a challenge that can just be solved in IT and engineering, nor should it. MDM is about bringing the business and IT together. If I could say this in another way, hopefully this is more practical, because that's a very high level statement and general statement. What I would say is this: there are people at your company right now, and there are particular business domains that we all share as companies. We have customers, we have support tickets, we have third-party vendors that supply our software and parts for our products and things like this. And there are people within your business, they know so much about this data. They don't know necessarily how to write Python or ETL pipelines or do data modeling in the right way that will scale. They don't know about indexes. They don't know what a notebook is. They don't know what Spark is. They don't know what like Apache Iceberg is. But my gosh, they can tell you everything about these vendors. They can tell you if something's wrong. They can fill in things if you need it. They can just explain absolutely everything. MDM is about bringing those people in to the normal supply chain of data and saying, in a non-interruptive way, IT and engineering, you do your parts, and then there'll be a part where I can come in and do some things as well that won't impact you. They won't change your code, they won't change your deployment pipelines or anything like this. It offers me a little bit more of an operational place that allows me and those subject matter experts to come in, not be technical, not write code, but then kind of embody their understanding of the data into the overall supply chain of data. That's what MDM is for. Now, maybe this is somewhat odd for you to hear from a vendor in MDM, but I would argue, with my software engineering background, that's what I've done for the majority of my career, I would argue that if you were in the case where you had certain data sets, even for important business domains, and you needed to clean, you needed to match and merge, you need to reconcile if these are the same clients or the same customers from across different systems. If the output of that is that you need 50, 60% quality, and the rest you can kind of put up with, don't buy an MDM system. You don't need it. I'm sure you've already got something like a Fabric, a Databricks, a Snowflake, a BigQuery. You might have a SQL Server, an Oracle. You've got some processing engine to work with data. I would attest that, especially now with coding, excuse me, especially now with coding really being the frontier of AI, and I mean, it is genuinely super impressive. I would give most companies that, given an engineer, probably in under 30 minutes, maybe even under 15 minutes, you could take a data set, it could be big, you could use AI coding to get a pretty good matching engine. Rule-based, yes, but fuzzy capabilities, sure. I think, and from experience, pretty quick to a 50, 60% solution. If this is what you need, do not get an off-the-shelf MDM system. Build it. Because this is essentially what the majority of people are wanting to achieve when they think about MDM, is matching and merging, maybe a little bit of data quality, standardization, and things like this. But if your requirement is 60%, go with what you've got. If you need something over this, I can attest with plenty of scar tissue on our side at CluedIn, working with hundreds of different companies across all different industries and globes. The last 40% without a proper built MDM system is painful, if not impossible. And it's often the case with building versus buy. You can get to an X%, maybe the classic 80-20 rule, pretty quick. It's the exceptions that are the ones that take a day per exception. And that's just where the scale is just lost completely. The good news here is that everybody has an even playing field. We all have access to this frontier AI coding large language models. So if this is the level of quality that you need, you can. And I've seen this done many times. You can do this already with many engines. You've probably already got them in your stack as well. So maybe let me be the one then to say MDM is not matching and merging. MDM is not matching and merging. MDM has a capability for matching and merging, and actually its main value is not finding the 60%. That's not its value. Good MDM systems are capable of rule-based matching with deterministic and fuzziness and normalizers and all of these inbuilt tricks, but that's not, I would say, there's no kind of, I would say, easy separating of the pack. All of the MDM vendors will roughly have the same capabilities, deterministic and probabilistic matching. This is not what you want an MDM system for. What you're wanting to buy an MDM system for is to help you with the 40%. Because at that point, if you lose the scale on the last 40%, all of the wins you're going to get from the quick time to value with the 60%, you're going to lose very quickly on the 40%, because matching and merging introduces these layers of complexity, such as, in case of a conflict, who wins? Well, once again, we could take a rule-based approach to this, and you don't need an MDM system for rule-based survivorship. You need and want to buy an MDM system off the shelf for the 40% of cases where rule-based survivorship doesn't work. Now, there are obvious rules, like in the case of two phone numbers conflicting, please take the phone number from the vendor management source if it's a vendor. If it's a client, take it from the CRM, and so forth. These are very easy deterministic rule-based. Like, this is not what you want to buy an MDM system for. You want to buy an MDM system for the cases where rules don't apply, where there is this triage process involved in handling exceptions to the rule. The other piece is matching and merging is one thing, but all the governance around it of why did it merge? How do I explain this to someone that's not technical, why these records merged? What about audit trails? Can I roll back changes if I realize at a later point I did matching incorrectly? How do I know what impact was involved by me making that decision 6 months ago and changing it now? All of these are things in reality that once you have a matching and merging engine running in production for months, if not years, you realize you can't do without. This is, it's one of those cases where naively walking into a matching and merging engine, you might have an upfront feeling that you need to do this, and that's when you also hit the, wow, there's a lot of work involved in getting that automated governance and auditing system set up. Let's not forget, the entire idea behind MDM is to involve those subject matter experts. And I can tell you, IT and engineering should not be responsible, nor should we hold them to that responsibility to make the final decision on should I merge these records together, or should I change this phone number to another because I think this one is wrong and the other one is correct. And the clear answer is, please do not do that. IT and engineering should not be responsible for the actual integrity of the data and the stamping that, yes, this is correct, please start making business decisions off this. I think also majority of people would actually say, I don't want that anyway. Unfortunately, if you're building, this is often the case, that whether you know it or not, these types of decisions are being made in IT and engineering. And then we unfortunately have those situations where we're sending invoices to the wrong address, and we wonder why people aren't paying their invoices. So this has to be owned, this process, this workflow process, by someone in the business without requiring them to be technical. Let's dive in, because there's lots more to talk about, but you can see there's some other elements here as well. So let's go through some real life examples of where a build story is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. And like I gave the example of, you could build a pretty good matching engine in Spark, in Fabric, in Databricks, in Snowflake to handle the easy cases. So let's just take something like this, a deterministic key match. Okay, so we've got IDs that are matching across different systems. In principle, pretty safe to do. Yes, in our exposure over the last 10, 11 years, there are very clear cases when someone's just put the wrong DUNS number in, and we shouldn't have merged off IDs. And once again, you buy an MDM system for handling the exceptions to the rules really well and facilitating that process, that doesn't just slow everything down and put us in this state of what do we do? How often, wow, have we been doing this a lot in the past? Having an MDM system in there provides this layer of operational reliability when these things inevitably happen. Obviously, case and punctuation differences. Any code in the world could do this. Things like what's called stemming, so or abbreviations. So we've got ST and street, and you could ask any AI in the world to come up with the common ones, put that into your Databricks notebook or Fabric notebook, and just parse those and those tokens through. This is not the complex parts of matching and merging. And you see some other examples on the left-hand side. So let's go take a look at what the reality is and where we lose our time. It is, right, so I've got a pretty close similarity between these two. Maybe the addresses are similar. Should I merge these? This is a much more complex thing than you might think. Number one, what is the impact doing this? A good MDM system will tell you, here are the downstream systems that are feeding this data. If you were to do this, this would happen. So it's offering that end user the ability to actually see the impact of their work. What about complex abbreviations like nicknames, Mark and Spencer's, M&S? For a British citizen or someone visiting the UK, you would obviously know these are the same things. These are the same things. Where is it going to get that intelligence from? Now, obviously, traditional rule-based approaches using string distance functions and fuzzy techniques, things like Levenstein's, Jacquard functions, Hamming distances, and things like this, they're just not going to pick these kind of elements up. So this is, once again, exceptions to the rules. And then you get into all these complex situations that happen in different industries, such as two people, same name, same date of birth, same town, different customers. And rules would have picked this up and said, merge it. But that merging can have real complex downstream effects, like maybe sending an invoice to the wrong email address now. I was just meeting with one of our customers last week in South Africa, 2 weeks ago in South Africa, and he was sitting there and saying, here's some examples that take us, that would have taken us just days to resolve if we didn't have a proper MDM system in place that was saying not everything is going to adhere to global rules. I can also tell you across industry, this will get you 60%, and then the last 40% is absolutely painful. Let's do another example. Let's say we have two companies, and we have one where the city is Linden and one where the other city is London. Now, to be able to help scale this challenge, there's this problem of unfitting and overfitting, in that if we start using fuzzy rules for every possible match that it does find successfully, it's going to find examples where it should definitely not merge. And this is that I often describe as the downward spiral of matching and merging, that if you get in that situation, there goes hundreds of your hours, if in the end you even decide to do it as well. So this is not a problem that you want to start to invest time in. So there's typically two approaches to this. let's introduce a little bit of fuzziness into the matching on the city to cater for these examples. Now, because CluedIn has data quality capabilities, we also have our cleaning studio. We also have our AI agents that could spot an issue like this and suggest how to fix this problem. Instead of introducing these fuzzy matches, wouldn't it be better to actually clean the data? So both are London, so our deterministic rules can fit. So this is a technique that we often share with our customers of don't build matching rules to fit your data. Clean your data to fit your matching rules. Now this is just one of the steps you would do in the overall loop of solving this problem. But unfortunately, if we take a build approach to this is often a step that we miss because we try to code everything into perfect matching rules, and as soon as we introduce any fuzziness, automation becomes extremely hard to do. In case, I would argue in most cases, in what we've been exposed to, you can't run it in an automated way because you can't risk the challenge of a small fuzziness getting something wrong. The way I always articulate to our customers is no one's going to blame anyone in the rule for very strict deterministic rules. But what they will probably blame you for is where they can look at two records side by side, obviously see these are completely different companies, but for some reason automation was able to merge it because there was a certain level of fuzziness in it. I heard this great quote just 2 days ago, and I think it really nicely sums up the kind of build versus buy argument when it comes to MDM specifically. The quote, and I kind of butchered it probably, I didn't get it perfectly, but I got the essence of it. It was this, the low-hanging fruit are the first to turn rotten. And we all know this saying, like the low-hanging fruits, let's go after the easy wins and things like this. And I think with MDM specifically, the build, I would say, is often going to push you in this direction of you get quick wins, 60%, pretty fast, maybe within even 15, 30 minutes, as I gave the example before. The remaining 40% is often where the business value actually sits and where it's painfully slow and tedious to get the last 40%. And that's where you realize why MDM have these other capabilities, not just matching and merging, cleaning, data enrichment, data quality metrics, agents to go off and standardize things, validation. It's this almost flywheel of matching and merging needs the other capabilities to do proper matching and merging. So there's this heavy dependence that exists between this, almost iteration that exists. And so you can imagine this iteration is what we at CluedIn have built into our AI agents. We've said, listen, over the last 10 years, we actually have come up with a really nice method to solve matching and merging at scale to a very high percentage. And it turns out there's this loop, an iteration loop, to do it successfully and to do it at scale. This is what we've integrated into our AI agents. So then, maybe cheekily, to answer the question of, okay, how long would it take to build? How long would it take to build an MDM system that solves my problem? Well, I can say 10 years and ticking. The technology is always evolving. The technology around MDM is always evolving. Expectations for faster, better, cheaper is always growing. So to answer this question, I feel like I'm in a good place to be able to answer it in building CluedIn for the last 10, 11 years. I can definitely say that you'll need at least 20 full-time engineers throughout that 11 years and going. You'll need hundreds of iterations on your product. Hundreds, I mean, I'm understating this, probably thousands of iterations where here's the first version, what are we missing to get this in production? Let's build that with our customers, let's iterate across industry and things like this. And of course, I can say many, 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 many millions of dollars to build an MDM solution. So for me, the question is not whether your team's good enough. I'm sure they are more than capable. This is not the challenge. It's whether is this the thing you want to dedicate your engineers' times to? Is it that decade of spending this many iterations, this many engineers, is that so critical to your business? Is the uniqueness of your business so much the case that no off-the-shelf MDM solution can solve your challenge? So I can tell you, in the 11 years of working not only with our customers, but talking with companies that didn't choose CluedIn, understanding their pain, running POCs, running pilots, seeing their data, understanding their challenges. How often at CluedIn are we actually exposed to a company that is so unique in their challenge and requirements that not just CluedIn, any off-the-shelf MDM system wouldn't equate? That's an interesting question to ask, and I'll show you and share you the results in a second. So I want to put myself in the shoes of you, the buyer, the decision maker, someone who's looking at this right now and wondering, do we build versus buy? I actually, this might not be your case, but I'd say it's a theme that we see ourselves. You already have a lot of the pieces, so it's tempting. It's very tempting. You've got a data processing engine, you've got a compute engine, you've got an analytical engine, you've got a business intelligence tool to display charts. These are all things you would want in an MDM system. Those systems scale, they're cost effective. There's all these positive things about it. In saying that, you've probably got a good workflow engine already. You're using it for RPA, you're using it for automation. Maybe that's Power Automate, maybe it's Zapier, maybe it's UiPath. Lots of different things. Maybe it's built into your CRM system. Maybe it's Salesforce that you're using their workflow engine. Dynamics, maybe you're using HubSpot's workflow engine and getting some good automation around that. I'm gonna give you this and even more. You've probably got a couple of in-house built matching and merging engines in Databricks and things like this. This is not where the complexity lies. The complexity and the time, the R&D lies in stitching these pieces together. There is this iteration cycle of, wow, that was quick to hook these systems up. The iteration cycles of realizing it's not enough yet. We don't have this running in production. The end users are not using this. Not enough attribution. Not enough audit trail. We're not going to pass an audit if that's what we share with the auditor about our data management. We have to add. This is where the time is taken. And I can attest, it's probably not the immediate thing you're thinking about. It's we've got the pieces, right? I'm already paying for these tools. Essentially what you're paying for in an MDM system is someone that has already stitched that together in a very reliable manner. And they work really nicely together and they speed up these processes, these workflow processes that you would have to build yourself. One. That's the answer to the question I posed before. I find myself at CluedIn, I'm pretty hands-on with our customers. I meet a lot of the executives of our customers at many stages throughout the customer journey. Introduction, when they're about to partner up with us, milestone 1, milestone 2, public announcements, often pretty heavily working with our customers in these stages. I've met one in the 11 years of running CluedIn, where one company had requirements that were so genuinely beyond off-the-shelf MDM, not just CluedIn, any system on the market. I won't mention who, just to keep their privacy, of course, but the business domain was member data, lots of it, in the hundreds of millions. And there were expectations on matching and merging done in a certain way that was just basically, if we just dumped another 30 million members like this, the whole thing has to be done in milliseconds. This is effectively real-time matching and merging at tremendous scales, at any unpredictable time. So of course, if we knew, right, all the data's there, then let's run like a Spark job across it. Of course, the matching and merging, as you'll attest to, it's not going to happen in milliseconds, even in an amazing engine like Spark. That was not the requirement. The requirement was that any second, unexpectedly, they could get dumped a huge amount of data, and it had to happen. That is a great example where it's like you have to build that. That's also going to be a tremendous complex project to be able to do that, where cost is probably going to go through the absolute roof. If you have this requirement, build your MDM system. Build your own matching and merging engine. Very rare to run across engines that can do this at milliseconds, and with that level of, I don't know when the data is coming in. That's the complex part. If you were to have it all in one place, in a nice Delta table, in a modern file structure, you had Spark clusters that are warm, that are big, that are running. We've already seen that Spark is capable of doing this type of matching in 5 minutes or less. Super impressive. Not in milliseconds. Not even Spark at the highest level would be able to do these types. Right, you obviously have to build something custom. So, do you build or buy? I'm going to stick to my answer. Possibly is the answer. If you are working with business domains where, let's just take employee. You've got employee data scattered across multiple systems, and the outcome that you needed was roughly 60% of matching and merging cases were good. The rest of it, we can put up with that. Do not buy an MDM system. It's probably overkill. If you are working with a business domain that just so happens to be in MDM, you're usually putting the most important business domains in there. The ones that are used in building revenue, the ones that are used for auditing, the ones that are used for regulatory reasons, the ones that are for managing these critical business domains in your business that operate your business. The products you sell, the materials that make that up, the stock that you've got, the employees in your team. Like these are important business domains. 60% is typically nowhere near as much as you need. And what we've also kind of seen, and I think this is almost as I alluded to, it's a journey you often need to go on yourself to realize, right, I've underestimated the complexity about the 40%. 60%, not too bad, but I've underestimated the complexity of the 40%. And so don't be surprised if you've actually built matching and merging engines at your company already. In fact, we see this quite a lot, that, when we're talking with customers or companies, we've already got this kind of simple SQL-based matching engine. The challenge is that as soon as new requests come in, our team can't reply to them automatically. They're not always easy. Often they're trying to cater for these very small exceptions to the rules, and when we change the matching engine, it breaks other. You kind of now are in this loop of, there's got to be software and technology that has gone past that step and said, I'm going to handle that mess of when you get into the exceptions to the rules. With this in mind, I hope this has helped in a more transparent manner to understand what's involved in building your own MDM solution, why you would actually think about building your own custom MDM components versus where you would actually look at an off-the-shelf vendor to be able to help you with that. So thanks for your time, guys.